Information from Brenton Film regarding Hitchcock's 1936 film Sabotage. Fascinatingly detailed suspense with famous sequences and splendidly brooding atmosphere, said Hallowell's film guide. No one is who they seem and nothing is safe from Sabotage in this riveting cloak and dagger classic that starts with a bang and never lets up. Unbeknownst to his young American wife, Sylvia Sidney, a London theatre owner is providing a cover for a nest of German spies. In the shadows hides a sinister mastermind plotting to destroy the London Underground rail system. When the wife's young brother is innocently drawn into the web of espionage and danger, the fuse is lit on a deadly series of events that will blow their lives apart. From the master of intrigue comes a fascinating suspense thriller where finely drawn performances and cutting-edge atmosphere combine for first-rate entertainment. This piece here comes from the US Hallmark 4 VHS. The Master of Intrigue, 1995. Verloc, Oscar Homolka, runs a cinema in London's West End and lives with his wife, Sylvia Sidney, and her young brother, Desmond Tester. The cinema is a front for his activities as a secret agent working with a foreign power to destroy the London Underground system. When a detective, Ted John Loder, reveals that Verloc is under suspicion as a saboteur, the boy is dispatched on an errand to deliver film. He is actually carrying a bomb. On the way to Piccadilly Circus Station, the boy boards a bus where the bomb explodes, killing him and the other passengers. Mrs. Verloc, repelled by what her husband has done, takes justice into her own hands. Sabotage, released immediately following Secret Agent in 1936, had to be retitled despite its source, the Joseph Conrad novel The Secret Agent. This change from the book title avoided confusion in 1936, but 7 years later in Hollywood, Hitchcock completed a film for Universal entitled Saboteur, starring Robert Cummings. This, however, was not confusing in the USA, where Sabotage had been released under the less dramatic title The Woman Alone. The woman in this case was the saboteur's wife, played by American actress Sylvia Sidney, whose Hollywood career after a number of films was about to take off with the release of Fritz Lang's Fury 1936 opposite Spencer Tracy. On her return to California, she landed important roles with Henry Fonda in Lang's You Only Live Once, 1937, and John McCrea and Humphrey Bogart and William Wyler's Deep End, 1937. When asked what she'd learned from Hitchcock in the making of Sabotage, she cattily replied, "To be a puppet and not try to be creative." Viennese-born Oscar Homolka was a veteran of German film in the 1920s before he moved to England to appear in Roads of Africa in 1935 and Sabotage in 1936. From 1940, the majority of his movies were made in Hollywood or by Hollywood studios, such as Rage in Heaven 1941, I Remember Mama 1948, The 7-Year Itch 1955, War and Peace 1956, and Song of Norway 1970. Desmond Tester had a successful career as a child star in Great Britain, beginning with Midshipman Easy in 1935, followed by Tudor Rose in 1936, the same year he appeared in Sabotage. In 1938, he appeared as the drummer boy in The Drum with Sabu. Tester migrated to Australia in the 1950s, becoming a long-running compere of the children's program on Australia's first ever TV channel TCN9 in Sydney. He has continued to appear in the occasional Australian film, including 1984's The Wild Duck with Jeremy Irons and Liv Ullmann. Apparently that's from the Australian Roadshow Entertainment VHS in 1998. Yes. Hitch's golden run of 1930s thrillers continues unabated with Sabotage, whose title is a MacGuffin. This is really a domestic drama, albeit one of sky-high stakes. It boasts an impeccable pedigree, being based on The Secret Agent, A Simple Tale, 1907, a critically acclaimed novel by Joseph Heart of Darkness Conrad. Once again, Hitch's chief scriptwriter, Charles Bennett, assisted by a handful of others, deviated considerably from the novel and supplied the film's more defined sense of closure and quasi-happy ending. Originally, pretty much all its major players, both good and bad, died in the end in the tradition of nihilistic greats like King Lear. Conrad had already adapted his novel as an eponymous play, which had a short London run in 1922 and many times since, but his script does not appear to have been referred to for Hitch's film, subsequently adapted in various other media. It's even been turned into an opera at least thrice in 2006, 2011, and 2013. For obvious reasons, the title had to be changed from that of Conrad's novel. All right then. Coincidentally, that happened to have been the name of Hitch's previous film, except in France, that is, where Sabotage was indeed titled Agent Secret, made possible because the previous year's Secret Agent had been retitled Quatre de l'Espionnage, The Spying For. No, not at all confusing. Naturally, all the remakes in various different media have retained the novel's title. Hitch's film was retitled yet again for the US, where the more sensational The Hidden Power, and the more below, and again to the lure of The Woman Alone, was somehow thought necessary, despite being wholly inaccurate. But that's nothing. Its US re-release earned the even more macabre moniker I Married a Murderer. Its US re-release earned the even more macabre moniker I Married a Murderer. At least that alternative retained relevance to the plot, which does what it says on the film reel tin. The story, originally set in 1886, but here updated half a century to find World War II looming, concerns a London-based group of foreign saboteurs, or a terrorist cell in modern parlance. They work out of a seedy Soho newsagent selling porn magazines and sundry and salubrious wares. In the novel, that is. There were even more renaming shenanigans due to the fact that just a few months later a British film was released with the title A Woman Alone. It has a much lighter matter and altogether happier ending, but of course it still couldn't follow Sabotage / The Woman Alone across the pond under that banner, so it was instead called Two Who Dared. It happens to include Esme Percy, who had earlier featured as the antagonist in Murder and has seen just a few releases. The film's setting was moved to an ostensibly family-friendly cinema south of the river, which may have shown some porn films, though Hitch could only get away with hinting at the fact. When Verloc, the manager and undercover terrorist, don't worry, it's not a spoiler, we learn this in the opening scenes, wonders why the police are paying special attention to his establishment. His greengrocer neighbour jokingly speculates, "You must have been showing some funny sort of films, I dare say. Perhaps a bit too hot." This London Filmland article has more details of the film's cinema setting, but beware its many spoilers. In the novel, terrorist attacks are carried out by Russian embassy agents on behalf of the Tsarist regime to whip up anti-leftist sentiment and popular resistance to the immigration of refugees fleeing persecution. Of course, it would have been a cinch to alter Tsarist Russia to Nazi Germany, but these were sensitive times. Most of the world is still trying to appease Hitler's fascist regime. Coincidentally, the novel's main saboteur was named Adolf Verloc, so when the film was rechristened Karl, he was played to sinister perfection by Austrian emigre Oskar Homolka, who left behind a very successful stage and screen career in Germany after Hitler came to power, thereafter living and working in the US and UK for the rest of his life. Therefore, though the baddie's cause here remains nebulous, you can easily fill in the blanks for yourself. Incidentally, the most cited fact concerning Sabotage is Hitch's frequent pronouncement, commencing of Hitchcock's Truffaut in 1962, is that the on-screen explosion was a mistake, and if he could do it over again, he wouldn't allow the bomb to go off. To me, this rings hollow, and I'm not the only one. Not only does it explode in the novel and play, it is narratively essential for all that follows afterwards. Hitch received some contemporary criticism for the bomb, and later, from Francois Truffaut, who bluntly told him, "Making a child die in a picture is a rather ticklish matter. It comes close to an abuse of cinematic power." Of course, Hitch, ever averse to conflict, acquiesced, thus leading to something of another Hitchcock myth. Conversely, the staging and editing of the pivotal knife scene has drawn unanimous plaudits both then and now, and is rightly celebrated as one of the film's high but low points. Unsurprisingly, Hitch remained proud of it until the end. There are cute mini remakes of it here and here. Though I won't detail them, echoes of blackmail reverberate strongly throughout, with multiple shared themes and very specific similarities. Certainly there is at least as much wit and inventiveness on display again, yet while constantly using sound innovatively, it also showcases many of Hitch's effective silent era techniques. Sabotage also has many tidbits, both real and fictitious, scattered around for fans of 1930s cinema. At one point, Ted Spencer, played by John Loder, playfully warns, "Look out, George Arliss doesn't bite you, Steve," to the unaffected youngster portrayed by Desmond Tester. Other references include several authentic-looking posters for Two Gun Love, an imaginary Hollywood western with Tom McGurf and Jane Obscured, plainly inspired by the many popular cowboy stars of the time, such as Tom Mix and William Hopalong Cassidy Boyd. Similarly, an intriguing but sadly non-existent two-reeler, Bartholomew the Stranger, also features prominently throughout the central part of the film. Just before initiating the chain of events leading to the film's most shocking act, Mr. Verloc pretends to be browsing through a trade magazine with a cover proclaiming the arrival of Percy Gibson in Obscured McGraw, apparently another non-existent western. Behind the seemingly mocked-up cover is an actual trade magazine. Among its numerous, mostly indistinguishable adverts is one for Gainsborough and the glossy centre spread depicted here for Revolt of the Zombies 1936. Its strapline, even more fascinating than White Zombie, refers to a 1932 surprise hit from the same team which ushered in a wave of zombie B-movies. The earlier film starred Bela Lugosi, hot off the success of the previous year's groundbreaking Dracula. But be warned, for these zombies are well worth a taste if you aren't the fast-moving and cannibalistic 2.0 variety of Game Changer, Night of the Living Dead 1968 and beyond. Rather, they're shuffling drones that are only occasionally moved to violence. Even then, sadly, nary a brain is consumed. Both films are in the public domain, so expectedly there are many terrible copies out there of poor AV, and of White Zombie missing 1-2 minutes of varying snippets of footage. In 2015, UCLA restored the film to its original general release length from 6 different sources, but it's only had a few public screenings and is yet unreleased on home video. Much closer here. Thank you, everyone.